power right there.
Let's get into the book. This is Mr. Henry's book selection for this go around, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. So give us a quick synopsis, Henry.
It's basically a book that talks about why people spend money and how they spend it. Go.
All right. Thank you for that short summary.
No problem.
Right,
I'm not gonna be like the rest of y'all niggas and give that fucking long ass diatribe. Go ahead, Al.
We're gonna start off with your question since you pressed the top. Controlling your time is the highest.
Question for last.
Go ahead. You got it right. Why don't you just read them in the order that they were sent?
Nah, because I always rank them based on whose book or selection it is first. Because
okay,
out of respect.
Go ahead. We don't want to mess with it.
All right, controlling your time is the highest dividend money pays. Are we or our job to blame that we think, brainstorm about work while away from work?
Let me just say something real quick. I had to edit that. I meant business too, not just job. Because I already know how Schubert gonna be like, I don't got a job, but I know he may think about his profession when he's not there.
All right, so restate the question how you would like to pose it.
Yeah, controlling your time is the highest dividend money pays. Are we or our job / business to blame that we think or brainstorm about work while we're away from work? Bro, I'm not answering my own question first.
Controlling your time is the highest dividend money pays. Are we or our job to blame brainstorm about work while away from work?
So my man just basically said how like back in the day you'd have.
You are going to answer that question first, motherfucker.
I'm not. But the dudes was saying how
you
like
understand his dumbass question.
Yeah, that's why I give you a history because you probably didn't even read this part. The dude was saying how back in the day. Go ahead, Schubert. Thank you, Schubert.
I understand his question, but he conflated two different parts of the book.
That's what I'm saying. That's
the problem. So one part of the book did mention about how time is the biggest dividend you can get.
You pay
so
yourself.
Basically, mean the fact of because of the money that you make, you don't have to work a certain number of hours. You might work, a job that's more salary based versus a job that's hourly based. Mm-hmm. Also, what you can get out of your money. So, for instance, like if I have a housekeeper and I pay my housekeeper $100 a day to clean my house, and it's 8 hours out my day, but it takes me 1 hour to 2 hours to make that money, then I'm getting 6 hours of my freedom and my time back. That was in the
opportunity cost.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what they call it.
But the other aspect that he was talking about where he was talking about, like, there was a time when Rockefeller, his biggest asset was his mind. That's what he get paid to do, was use his mind to think. The job, because nowadays we have a lot more managerial and administrative jobs that we can sit at a desk where our mind is what goes to work, not our physical being. And because of that, our mind is constantly going, and we are always at the job, even when we leave the job. So it feels like the job is more exhausting.
Yeah,
and my man also stated.
I thought part of it was he was saying also that there's some people who have a job who can leave their job where the job is, and there's other people who have the job who can constantly take their job with them because they use their fucking brain.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
That's the managers and administrative, any type of job that we're sitting at a desk and using your mind, versus a job where
I'm using my hands, I'm a manufacturer.
Or your hands. Once you leave that job, you leave the job. You see what I'm saying?
You talking about who ain't read what, bitch? Words your question is right.
Which part of the question don't you understand, Smith? So I already
started answering it, so it don't matter. We ain't gonna waste time on that.
Here's the thing. As a person who owns a business and understands the dynamics of all of this, or both of the 2 points that he conflated. One, I understand the fact of, like, when you own a business, the business owns you. You're constantly thinking about the business, the next step, the next month, the next year. You're always thinking of, like, what do I need to do to make the business better? How can I cover the cost and this and that? So it's always on your mind. But the physical, the whole thing is, as far as the time dividend, the physical time I'm spending at the business is lease. All right. So the whole thing is, my mind may be thinking about the business, but at the end of the day, physically, I'm not actually there. So it's like saying brushing your teeth while thinking about what you're having for breakfast is too much. I'm not physically making breakfast, but I'm sitting there brushing my teeth while I'm thinking about what I want for breakfast. So I don't think the two things really go hand in hand necessarily. You know, like I don't think you're losing time because something's on your mind. The only way it becomes that way is if you obsess about it and you can't be in the moment.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think about what they have to do next, not necessarily thinking about how to make it better. But if you got a situation where motherfuckers think about their jobs, motherfuckers lose sleep over their jobs, motherfuckers think about their jobs, whether they like their job, love it, or they're just there for the job. When you work at a certain fucking place, at some point the job starts consuming you. People don't know how to break that down. So you got that part of it. You know what I mean? It's not about the job necessarily consuming your time. If you're in a certain field and you want to be better, you're going to think about how to be better. If you're in a certain field and you want to think about what's the next step for you, you're going to constantly think about that. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily thinking about the job. It's like, what's better for me? What's my next move? And if my next move is contemplating, hey, I got to get out of this position to get to this position to go here. You know what I mean? I just don't think it's one and the same. And I don't think that there are some people who spend their time thinking about their job, and there's some people, they do Monday through Friday. They punch the clock and they don't give a fuck about that job until they punch the clock again. You know what I mean? So it's I guess at the end of the day, it's like, what kind of person are you? You know what I mean? Are you a person who thinks about the job like that, or you don't? You know what I mean? I think it comes down to individual.
Yeah, so that's where I come with the pushback, though, Smith. Because if your boss is telling you that X, Y, and Z needs to get done, or even if they're saying, like, look, you did a shitty ass job at whatever, we have the power to think about that shit when we leave work. And some niggas do be like, and I experienced that shit firsthand. Like, man, when I walk up out this job, I'm not thinking about this shit until I come back in on Monday. But when you get into a situation where it's like, yo, I left on a Friday, and my principal, whose name would remain nameless, she says she's notorious for sending write-ups at 1 minute before on a Friday before teachers are supposed to clock out so they could see that shit and take it with them over the weekend. Yo, how do you not think about that shit when you gone?
Because I'm not looking at that shit 1 minute before I clock out.
Well, you gotta,
like I
so
said.
Even if,
just,
so even if I don't,
question, let me answer, please.
I didn't ask the question, Smith.
You did. You said, how do you not think about that?
I'm sorry. I wasn't asking you specifically. I was.
So
just
it was
saying,
a ritual question.
It's rhetorical.
Yeah, I think it was a rhetorical question he asked. I don't know.
Me personally, Henry, I'm not checking that email before I fucking leave work.
But, okay, so even if you're
thinking about that, the other part is like, listen, the guy said in this, when he became an investment banker, he had a 6-month stint. The motherfucker said he thought he could do 6 months with no problem. Motherfucker said he got 1 month in and was like, I can't do this shit. Because he didn't realize that investment banking meant Friday night you work, you get up early for coming on Saturday to come back in on Sunday. He said he didn't understand that. He said that most motherfuckers don't understand that that's the kind of work that constantly makes you think like that. People don't have that kind of job. And if you put yourself in that position, that, again, is still individual. He made an individual choice that this ain't going to work for me. Fuck this job. You understand? So it still becomes an individual choice.
Yeah, it comes down to, in my opinion, it comes down to the lifestyle. I want to necessarily say it's blame, but I think it comes down to the lifestyle you want. And if your lifestyle requires you to earn a bunch of income, then hey, if your job is demanding, if your job or your business is paying you the dividends that you want, then so be it. It's just I don't necessarily want to look at it as a blame situation. It's like the story.
That's what you want. Because you could have started your own fucking business like Black Zeus did. Fuck. That's what you want. You want to get better. You want to get, so you want to think about this job because you want to either own your own or you want to
own a franchise.
But you know, though,
I know Black Zeus might want to own 2 or 3 more chains.
Exactly. So I agree with that.
So if it requires him to work 7 days a week, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah. You want more shit.
Yeah. Even when you own
job, you gonna blame the job because you want to be better because you want more money? Fuck, you can't blame the job because you want more.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about choices that you made. You want more, you know, you got to do more. Fuck.
Like, Kel, you know me, I'm notorious for working on weekends, and a lot of that, like, yeah, my salary's set, but I need that recognition. Why? Because I want that fat bonus come January.
He want more.
I want more.
Now he can choose to not go in, but guess what? He's not gonna get more.
Exactly.
I know
that works.
I think certain situations are different though, because working for recognition,
individual situation is
working. Okay, so I'm agreeing with you, Smith. Working because you want the recognition ain't the same thing. Well, for me, as like, yo, we got your fucking test scores wasn't what they were supposed to be. We got to make sure that when this next test comes up on Tuesday, that these kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Y'all think about that shit all weekend.
Yeah,
hey, Henry, that's the same thing as saying, right quick, Black Zeus, that's the same thing as saying, hey, you didn't meet your quota on the assembly line, bruh.
I was going to say, like, there's three basic things here. There's three basic things. Either you're working, for like Bradley said, for recognition. Maybe you like to be, recognized for the work you do and, be patted on the back and get rewarded for it, this, that, and the other. There's the B, working for results, which is, basic what you're talking about, which a lot of corporations, this, that, and the other. At the end of the day, if you get the results, they don't give a damn what you do, 20 hours, they do 200 hours, as long as you get the results that's required. Yeah. So if you want less hours, get results in shorter time. And then there's a third factor. You get, you work, for what's the word I'm looking for? Damn it, I just had it. You work for the joy of working. You enjoy the work that you do, out of your own self accomplishment. It's more intrinsic than anything. It's not for anybody else. You do it for yourself. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, I may go harder in the gym with my clients and this, that, and the other, and push them to get better results, or I'll come in earlier to get to set up things the way, or put together the playlist that they like. That's it, because I enjoy what I do. And I take pride in what I do. It has nothing to do with getting results, because I still get paid the same amount. It has nothing to do with me answering to a boss, because I am my boss. So at the end of the day, I'm doing it for my own personal intrinsic desires.
I like that. I like that, Black Zeus. Yeah.
So it just matters how you wired.
Yeah.
It's all a matter how you wired.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go. Well said. Let's go to Smith's question. Yeah, I'm fucking with him this morning.
Oh, you want my question? I'll tell you it right now, bitch.
No, I'm good, because I already know he about to send the whole L. I forgot to send the send button. And we're going to be spending the next 8 minutes reading the question.
Can I go into the next question?
Just go ahead, Bradley. Do your thing.
Shit. This is from Black Zeus. I love this question because I immediately I knew you was going to go there with the first question. Immigrants tend to thrive well with money in the U.S. despite starting in the lower class. In Chapter 1, No One's Crazy, the author tells a story of an Asian woman who's glad to work in what Americans call sweatshops in comparison to her former life as a prostitute. Most Americans will never have such an experience, yet will be dissatisfied about the mundane trials and tribulation of their lives, and never will be satisfied with what they have, as illustrated in the third chapter. In Chapter 3, Never Enough, many people were destroyed by their own desire for money, especially due to social. I think this is a comparison. Are many Americans in the lower class destroying themselves by their own desire for more? That story with the Asian aunt that was told, that's for, I think a lot of Americans or Westerners, because the Europeans too. We suffer from first world problems. I think a lot of times we like to gloss over how other people in aspects of our world suffer, and how they just, like, recently Haiti just went through an uprising, obviously, and then now their president has been assassinated. One of the things that was argued by a lot of Haitian citizens was like, they were trying to get $5 a day as a salary. So I think a lot of times, Americans need to really travel. When I say travel, not travel leisurely to like these exotic countries and shit. Like travel to like impoverished
resorts.
Yeah, exactly. Don't do resorts.
Just don't go to resorts.
Exactly. Go inland somewhere if it's safe enough. I don't want to necessarily.
Just go inland. Period.
Here's my thing. When you travel, overseas and you go to a resort, and out the resort has a 12-foot or 15-foot concrete wall with barbed wire and guys with guns, on the outside of the resort. That tells you how real it is out there. Like the Dominican.
And you need to go out there to see it.
Yeah.
All right.
Now,
and you're willing to go there to travel for tourism, then you need to go and live amongst the people and see what that shit's really like.
Now, granted, I know this is often a hard comparison because I've known people who say you can't necessarily compare American lower class systems to like obviously impoverished developing countries. And to answer your question, Shu, it's hard because yes, I think a lot of times the American lower class, they don't have that perspective, but I don't understand. I struggle with this. Like, how do they gain that perspective? Because it is quite expensive for them to have that sort of understanding. But I don't know. I don't think a lot of American lower class people understand that they do have opportunities here, and like rather than focusing on the plight of their situation, just look at the opportunities that are granted to you.
Yeah, I think it's more so that Americans are greedy. I always told you these filthy Americans, this is why we're getting ready to be relapsed in this pandemic. I told you all start buying shit because around mid-September we're going to be shutting back down. But I think that Americans are too fucking greedy. I think, we always looking at the grass being greener on the other side instead of looking at our own fucking lawn. And we still do, like, I forget what chapter it was where he talked about, buying the $100,000 car and being broke as shit, and people thinking that you got this money because they look at this fucking Lamborghini or this.
Funny enough, he used the word peacocking.
Yeah,
he did.
And he said,
peacocking. So that, right?
A lot of Americans are still doing that. They're still trying to fucking peacock. Like, just because you're impoverished doesn't mean that you're you don't understand money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You haven't been in that position to get the money that you might have an understanding about. But because you're impoverished and you want people to think that you appear to be a certain way, meaning if I have Jordans, then it appears that I have money. If I wear red bottoms, it appears I have money. And I'm going to keep saying that word appear because this doesn't mean I have shit. You know what I mean? And this is like clothing that could get burned up. This ain't no assets. This is just some bullshit. So I think that a lot of Americans, when he was talking about the fact of people playing the lottery and, more poor people play the lottery because they're trying to get rich, that's the problem. You know what I mean? People are still trying to live other people's lives instead of trying to live their own. And that's the problem. So your relationship with money could be great if you give yourself time to let it be great. Yeah. Even in an impoverished situation, you can come out of it. And a book was talking about a lot of people who started with, little or started with a little more. But at any rate, you can still start with what he was talking about, $1 a day for a motherfucking year. You know what I mean? And keep investing that shit and doing compounding and letting that shit make some money for yourself. So I think that we still look at Cash's house and Cash's car and Cash's lifestyle, and we want to aspire to be like Cash instead of aspiring to be of our own.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they gloss over and shoot, we all have similar stories. Like, people don't even realize, like, yo, I lived in Ivy Hill apartments for a little over a decade. Like, it wasn't if anyone who's been to Ivy Hill apartments, it doesn't have the best amenities. We've had bed bug infestation. We had roaches infestation. There's been rats in the basement. But like
in Cash, what's
in the stairwell.
Y'all let me know when it's my turn.
Check it out, Cash. When my mother first moved from my father, who did the crack, I want to get that story in right quick. We only moved with a motherfucking couch bed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's all we had was a couch bed in a 2-bedroom apartment. Nothing else. My mother slept on the floor. Me and my brother slept in his couch bed. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like you said, decades later. Years later, my mother accumulated so much that when people came in our house, they thought we were wealthy. These same people that live in the same building, the same environment. And it wasn't that we were wealthy. My mother just, started building that.
Exactly. like a lot of people be like, yo, how did you? I'm like, yo, dude, saving a decade of where I was living before allowed me this opportunity. Go ahead, Kel. My bad.
Yeah.
I'm just listening to what all of y'all said. And I think that's like the overarching issue. I don't think that they're destroying themselves for the desire to get more. I just think they're going about it the wrong way. So like you can have more. You can be a millionaire. A regular ass person can. If you invest to put your money in the right way. If you spend your money on the right thing. So I don't even think that the desire to want more is the issue. I just think it is just sort of like a summation of what each one of you guys are saying. We're chasing after maybe somebody else's a lifestyle that we see other people have, and really just more so in the long way. And I think he said something along the lines. I mean, I'm just like paraphrasing how it's sort of like a long game as opposed to trying to acquire it right away. So I tell these dudes these dudes who are foster, if y'all niggas work at McDonald's and save $100 a month from the time you 18 to the time you retire, you got close to $1 million working at regular ass McDonald's, and you be set for the rest of your life. As far as just being able to sit back, relax, and live off of that money. But he ain't trying to do that. No. I'm not trying to be wealthy towards the end. So it's not even their desire for more is like that immediate. I just want it now, and they don't see it in the long run.
And I'm not even trying to be wealthy now. I'm just trying to look wealthy.
See, the unfortunate part is it just seems like there had to have been, and this can't necessarily be with all white people, whoever, but you can pinpoint some stories of maybe like a parent who sacrificed and lived that way and then left $1 million to their kids, and now they're better off. It just takes for one nigga to sacrifice that way for the rest of your generations to be good.
That's
so
true.
Like
that's not true.
No, I mean they can mess it up. The next generations can mess it up, Smith, but they'll be good starting out. I don't know. You know what? And this might be. I don't know. I don't want to go off topic.
But they can fuck it up if you don't teach the. And it's funny you say that because I asked my mother the other day. I said, "Why didn't you learn about or teach the psychology of money? You know what I mean? Why didn't you teach about money?" My mother said this. She said, "You know how many times I gave you like $10,000 to count?" And I said, "But you gave me $10,000 to count." She was like, "Because I wanted you to see what it was like to have it in your hand." I said, "But you never taught me about money. You understand how that works?"
Yeah, I ain't even gonna lie about even the whole investing.
Ask your mother. Your mother ain't teach you about money.
I agree, and that's what I'm saying.
I feel like your uncles, nobody taught
nobody, but they didn't know. I didn't even, and not for nothing. A decent amount of my aunts and uncles and my moms, they didn't even understand how the stock market worked. They felt like if I put
what I asked, why didn't you try to find out? Same way that I was fucking finding that shit out now. Why you?
Well, a lot of them ain't understand that it's important.
I wasn't understanding the importance. They were taught differently. They were taught to.
That's what it is. Yeah.
So they didn't go to think outside the box and let me find out on my own. They were taught a certain way.
Smith, you know what?
I'm very cautious to not teach my kids that way. You know what I mean?
And you know what, though, Smith?
Money is and how money works.
The Smith and Schubert and Cash, if you really think about like your closest immediate friends, or not even close immediate friends, but just some of the people in your circles, how many of them do you honestly feel like understand how to invest and save money? And it's like, I feel like a lot of the people who I was growing up with don't understand that now in this time period either. Now, I'm not even talking about the educated ones I went to school with, or even some of the ones who were educated, but the average dude. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like,
and I'm being honest. Even if I was taught about money, it would have still moved it differently. Because when I was showing some investing after 18, it would still move differently because I didn't expect to see 21. You know what I mean? The life. Yeah,
but Smith, if you had
listen to what I'm saying. If you're living a certain life and you're not expecting to reach a certain age, you're not thinking about saving fucking anything. And if you still have people that have that mind state nowadays, you could understand, or you should have an understanding of why they're not thinking about saving, because they're living one day at a time and they don't see themselves fucking 35.
That makes sense. But how do you excuse the ones or explain the ones who don't have that mindset? I remember.
Oh no, they got a shit mindset. That's different. You know what I mean?
I remember one of our friends specifically saying, "I'm young. I'm gonna start saving when I get older."
That's what I'm saying. That's different. That's different. And that's what you tell them. That's what you let them know. You know, like I was telling my cousin the other day, like he likes to jet set. You know what I mean? He's a jet setter. And I'm told him I'm not mad at that. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you don't have shit. You know what I mean? You're not building. You don't have anything. Like you want to jet set now, and that's cool. I said you can get a little more. You can jet set, and when you jet set, it can be a better.
How old is he?
outing. You know what I mean? Huh?
How old is he?
He's 28.
He's 28. Okay.
Wow.
Yes.
So
he's still about going away every fucking 2 weeks and shit.
Black Zeus, what you got?
So the whole thing is when I was looking at when I was reading all this, and the reason why I formed the questions, because I remember as a kid how, like, you know, when I got made fun of from, like, I remember my dad gave me a pair of his old Wilson sneakers when I outgrew my sneakers, and all my friends like in school making fun.
Hey, Black Zeus, come on, man, don't give me that story.
Like, you know, like I remember
down memory lane, but go ahead.
Yo, I remember friends making fun of me and stuff. Like, those Wilsons, you know. This was when, like, everybody was wearing, like, not British Knights, the Reebok pump and everything. So I'm here wearing my dad's old Wilsons, you know, while everybody's wearing Reebok pumps and everything. And the thing was, it was like, yo, my dad, you know, put his pennies to the side so that he would have money to, you know, pay for other things for me and my sister and my brothers and sisters, you know, and everything. And that was like one of those humbling lessons where it kind of put it in perspective, like, you know, wow, y'all was cool with me last week. And then because I'm wearing my dad's old sneakers, all of a sudden I don't hold the same value in your eyes. Yeah. And it really made me start learning about, like, you know, the difference between people understanding the value of money and people knowing the value of a person. And, you know, from that humbling experience, I realized, you know what? My real friends was cool with me regardless if I had my dad's sneakers or not. And the fake friends was like, you know, obviously they were fake. And that experience basically taught me that I don't need to have the most fanciest sneakers or the most expensive or the most coolest thing. You know what? I wasn't walking up the street barefoot. I wasn't walking up the street, you know, with a hole in the bottom of my sneaker. You know, those sneakers kept my feet, you know, dry when it rained and everything. And even though, like, yes, the social quote unquote embarrassment kind of sucked, I was still content with those sneakers. And with that life lesson, it also taught me to be content with simple things throughout my life to this day, where I still shop at the clearance rack at, like, Walmart or Kmart and shit, and I not give a fuck, you know, not really give two shits what you think. It fits, it's clean, you know, whatever the case is. I get, you know, I might even get some of the irregular size clothes that, you know, the stitching is a little bit off, but you don't even really notice it, whatever the case may be, and not give a damn about a label. But I know the fact of, I know what my bank account looks like. I know what my portfolio looks like. So you may not, you know, appreciate my outwardly appearance to be, you know, red bottom shoes or Jordans, which I've never had a pair of Jordans my entire life, you know. But at the end of the day, I recognize that the value of understanding where my money should go. And I'm just saying that us as Americans, we live such a privileged life, but yet we still always want more. Like, our house isn't big enough. Our car doesn't have enough amenities. Our cell phone isn't brand new and flashy enough. Our, you know, this is the 2018 Louis Vuitton. I need the 2021 Louis Vuitton, as if that wallet holds money differently from the old wallet or the cases. You know what I mean? And I find that the people that do it the most, the most guilty of it are in the lower class, you know, because I have clients that are millionaires, literally millionaires. And I've never seen them wear Jordans. I've never seen them wear not even jewelry, you know, to tell you the truth. One of my clients, you know, dude owns houses in Costa Rica, owns places in Florida, owns places here in Jersey, you know, got a portfolio worth over $2 million. That dude drives a Pathfinder. You know, he doesn't drive a Lexus, a Mercedes, or any of that shit. But yet I have another client of mine who just makes barely 200,000, and he drives an $80,000 Mercedes. He has a 4,000 square foot home for him and his wife and one kid. You know what I mean?
Hey, Black Zeus, I asked you what year was that your father bought you those sneakers? And the
I was
2020.
Funny. That was I was in the 7th grade. So
it was more than 15, 20 years ago, 30 years.
Yeah, that had to be like 88, 89.
The reason I asked that is because that's what we still are, man. That's what we still are. We're still into the amenities of what we can wear. You know what I mean? Like, that's the lifestyle that these kids still live. We're still into the Jordans and everything.
And that's the thing, that mindset needs to change.
So it's not like, you know, like what he said, if I'm spending $400, $416, $412, I think he said, a month playing a fucking lottery and shit, I could invest that. If Jordans cost $220, I could invest that. I'm just saying, like, so there are ways that people can get more money with the little that they have, but they're choosing to peacock. You know what I mean? They're choosing to be Americans.
To play a little devil's advocate, wouldn't you say that this is a byproduct of like American marketing? Because I think a lot of times, I think we gloss over, and I'm not trying to take away any individual accountability. This is not what I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. Is it the fact that America and most Western nations, they purposely go out their way to market consumerism? Like, you can't go anywhere or read anything without something being thrown in your face in regards of, you got to have this, you got to have that. Whereas I think when you go to other countries, that sort of consumerism is not in your face. Could that be a byproduct of that?
No, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it has a partial bit of that, but my whole thing is,
I'm playing devil's advocate. I don't want to arrow someone in my way.
No, but the whole thing is, the only way to really understand that, I would say, is to say, okay, let's compare the consumerism. So, meaning the fact of, no, matter of fact, no, I'm not even going to say that, because you know what? I've never seen a commercial for Gucci. I've never seen a commercial for Red Bottoms.
Exactly.
I don't see commercials. I don't see commercials.
You might not see a commercial, but your artists, especially the hip hop artists, they acting as advertisers for these products.
Influencers.
They're influencers. Influencers are advertisers for these products.
Okay. Pratt, it's the same way in the third world countries, because niggas out in DR trying to get fresh and fly too.
Yeah, but that's like when I was in Ecuador, I didn't see that. Like, when many parts of Ecuador, I didn't see that at all. Like, I didn't see big flashing billboards for anything that say, "Hey, you'll be, buy this car, buy." Like, I didn't see.
Yeah, Pratt, because you was in the part where niggas wasn't even driving cars. So why am I marketing?
But that's what I'm saying. So, like, I think the mindset of someone who comes from that area and they migrate to America, their idea of they're just looking at, the ability to have a better living and save and and do whatever other things. Whereas, like, you go to DR, where you're hanging out in DR, you see that consumerism.
See, but that's the thing, Fred, is the fact of, that's the thing. I don't think we have an understanding of what better living is. Because, so for instance, right, I remember hearing this from an old, I don't know if you ever heard of Earl Nightingale. He used to do these tapes and these audio tapes where he talks about different philosophies, this and the other. And he said, and this is back in the day, like way back in the day, like 1950s, I want to say, 1950s, 1960s, I forget. But, back when they still black and white and everything. But anyway, he said that everything that the rich man has in America, the poor man has, just a smaller version of it. The rich man has a $17 million, mansion. The poor man has a 3-bedroom home. The rich man has a limo, right? The poor man has a car. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a smaller version. At the end of the day, it's like, how much does it, when he pointed out, like, how much does it really change your life? You might have a 17-bedroom house, but how many beds can you sleep in at one time? How many pillows can you put your head down on? How many cars? You might have 20 cars in the driveway. How many can you drive at one time? And the thing is, 9 out of 10 Americans have the basics.
No, you're right. But what I'm saying, like, even look how the stimulus is, dispersed out. It's just like the whole intent of the stimulus was to get people to spend money rather than understanding. Like, if you want people to just have the basic, the government could have just simply say, hey, we're going to pay your utility bills. We're going to pay your essentials. But they didn't do that because the whole intent was for them to have this money to spend. And I think America, and I'm like I said, this is just me playing devil's advocate. I just think that America, the idea of is what makes America materialism.
No, here's the thing. They didn't give them that money to spend. The niggas could still
Yes, they did. Exactly.
Yes, they did.
Hold on.
Because if you understand how the economic machine works,
go ahead, Black.
If you understand how the economic machine works, you got to remember, you and I and everybody on this panel right now are not part of the working class. We are white collar. We are the thinking, we're the people that get paid for our mind for a much higher buck. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the whole thing is we don't generate or we don't operate in the same way. Meaning the fact of when somebody buys something, every time you buy something, that gives 200-300 other people a job. Exactly. So let's say you just go to buy a bag of chips from the corner store. All right. That corner store, they made some money off that bag of chips, but also the truck driver that brought the bag of chips, the boxes of chips to that store made some money. The gas that filled that truck to get there made some money. The person who made the bag for those chips to go into made some money. The factory that, made the chips, even though to you, them chips were only $1.50, that $1.50 got spread 300 different ways. And that's how the economic machine works.
Yeah, there's no denying that the government knows how people operate, but they didn't give the money so they could spend it on consumption.
Yes, they
could pay. Yes, they did, bro. They did.
If they did, then that means that anybody who got the stimulus couldn't spend it on a utility bill. Like they say, okay, we're gonna give you this money, but this is what you have to spend it for. No, I'm not denying that they knew that the average person was going to spend it on consumption, but that's not what they gave it for. Because if that's the case, then when you try to pay your bill,
but no, you got to listen to a conversation from Jerome Powell. Like, he's the Federal Reserve Chairman. They give stimulus out there so that people could spend money in the economy, not just for your basic needs. So it's just like if the government.
So why didn't they put stipulations on it then? Why were there no stipulations?
Because the whole thing is to get you to spend it. If they wanted stipulations, the only stipulations that they put on anything was for businesses.
No,
all right. For businesses, the money that you got for stimuluses for businesses had to go towards the business.
Okay.
All right. Had to go towards the business in order to ensure that people still had jobs, businesses stayed open, and things would keep going. The economy keep going. But you couldn't put that. You couldn't take that money and stack it away in the stock market or put in your savings account. The people who, the majority of people, especially the lower class, took that money and went to Amazon and blew all of it.
Exactly. So was it they gave the money knowing that people were going to spend it on consumption, or they gave
they did.
So that's not
because
the same thing.
No, because if they generally just wanted people to have the ability to just survive, they could have easily paid off someone's individual utilities. They could have easily paid off.
Spent a lot less money.
Yeah, and it spent a lot less money.
No, they couldn't have done that because you don't know what the utility bills are, so they couldn't have done that.
You can reach out to the municipality.
You can easily go to PSE&G and say, okay, how much is everybody's bill?
They're giving out a set amount of money for you to do whatever the fuck you want.
You want to do with it. Exactly.
But that's what we're saying, though.
But you could have paid your utility bills, and the dude who's going to Amazon, and the dude who's buying something at Amazon isn't buying something because they want to keep the truck driver who works at Amazon in business. That's not their intent.
But that's what it's doing, though.
That's the side effect.
But that's a side effect, dude. You got to understand the psychology in regards of the trickle-down theory. That's all it is. When the government gives you that stimulus, they don't care how you spend that money. They want you to spend that money.
That's it.
That's
keep
it.
the money circulating.
And they did put a stipulation in on an income level, because I didn't get the second or third stimulus, because they said, yo, you know what? They realized the people who are above a certain income, they use that money differently. That doesn't stimulate the economy.
So think of it like this. Most of my clientele are generally in the high six figures, right? So when this whole thing happened, you guess what? A lot of them fell off because, you know what? They're not coming to the gym. They're not training, whatever the case is. They were saving their money. Them saving their money meant that I had to save my money. My saving my money meant the fact of, guess what? I can't pay my son's tutor. I can't pay my housekeeper. I've got to cut back on the amount of groceries or going out to eat and things like that. That everybody's money is somebody else's money. So the whole thing is they put that stimulus money to literally stimulate the economy so that people had money.
But if you gave that stimulus check to your same clients, they're not spending it on the gym.
No, and that's why they had a limit on who was getting that stimulus.
Yeah,
if you were over 70,000, or I think it was like a 75,000,
like
they started trickling it down. Okay, so 90, but I told you most of my clientele were in the high six figures. They weren't getting the check.
But I get the theory that you guys are saying, knowing that the people are going to spend the money a certain way, but I don't know. I mean, I guess when you're saying that that's the reason why they gave it is because they knew that people were going to spend it. Yes. That's what y'all are saying.
Yeah. That's exactly what we're saying.
Because they could have still gave them the money and told them to spend it on the utility bill. But the people would have still spent it on because
they don't even have to. They don't even have to tell people to spend it on YouTube. They could have just done it, but that's not that was not the intention, though.
You just giving people the money, and they're going to spend
if they give the money to the utility company, right? Let's say they said everybody has to pay their utility company. Then guess what? Every other company suffers because their company are not being taken care of. So all the small businesses are suffering because that money didn't come to them. That money went to the utility company. All the supporting businesses of those small businesses, like I said, the truck driver, the delivery guy, the cardboard guy, they're suffering too because the fact of that money did not come to them. But
I get it.
If that money comes to them, then they could pay their bills, which eventually ends up at the utility anyway.
Yeah, all that's understood. So all right, I was just a little confused at first when y'all saying that's why they gave the stimulus money.
Yes,
because they wanted people to spend it on so and so. No, they knew that they were going to spend it on that.
Yes, they were going to spend it on whatever.
They knew they were going to spend it on whatever. The worst thing you could do when you give people a stimulus money is what Schubert, myself, with Smith, and yourself is doing. Is saving that money. It stifles the economy because they need you to spend that money. Period. They need you to spend that money. Regardless.
Everybody's money is somebody else's money.
All right, everybody give a last word, then I'm out.
Well, shit, there's no last word. We're going to continue to have this conversation without you. You could drop off that.
Kaz, don't talk trash, buddy. I mean, niggas remember what I did last weekend. I was just in this amicably.
We would not talk trash. Tell your mama
I hope trash.
No, I do not want him to cut this.
No, I'm not giving Kelvin that much power. I'm not giving him that much power.
It messed up the recording last time.
Listen, if he want to be disrespectful like that, this is what we're going to do. If he does it again, we cut him out the book club.
I didn't even ask for the last word.
Yeah, we're going to write about the book club.
He won't be in the book club.
I didn't even ask for the last word. I said, does anybody else have a last word?
So what the hell? We're going to transition to the next question.
So what are you talking about, Schubert? I'm trying to.
You want a last word for you?
No, just in general.
I'll give you a word.
Yo, Schubert knows how to. Yo,
you see how my man coming, right?
Yeah, I see. Kel, I appreciate you. Enjoy your mom. Tell her I hope she feels well, brother.
Tell her I said hello.
Tell her I said.
Fellas, I see y'all. Smith, Cash. Let me know if y'all still want to do something on Sunday. I'm still down.
All right, no doubt.
All right, I'm gonna see you.
Save my brisket.
Yeah. Oh, y'all let me know if y'all want to. No, we'll talk. I'll see y'all.
All right, bet.
All right.
Yeah.
We're trying to egg a motherfucker to drop the ruin our podcast last week.
Listen, man. I refuse to give any man that much power. You know what I mean?
I understand
I was spit in the face of my executioner. Talking about, go ahead, cut my head off. Fuck you. I'm not giving you the satisfaction of giving you that power. Oh, please, Mr. Execution, don't do it.
Yeah. But back to the question. I mean, like the devil's advocate question I'm posing. I don't know, man. I just feel like Americans, Western nations, I think, I don't know. We're programmed to be different. And granted, yes, I'm not saying that you can't necessarily buck the system and not fall into the trap, because obviously we're all, not necessarily living lavishly beyond our means, but I'm just saying, like, some people fall prey to this shit. It's just like America has a great marketing system for consumerism.
See, but the problem with that, and I'm not mad at the consumerism and so forth, so on. My only problem is that when someone of myself was the minority mindset, you like the way I put that in there?
Yeah,
I hate when you tell me, because I'm a saver, because I'm successful, because I've, put myself in a certain place in life. Now I owe the motherfuckers that didn't do the work that I did.
I don't blame you at all for that.
That's what I have a problem with. If you put yourself in that situation and you consume, and you had that majority mindset of, I'm going to get this Supreme, I'm going to get this red bottom, and I was the one walking around in Wilson's and you was making fun of me, but now you see my portfolio is looking sweet. Now you tell me, oh, I owe you and I got to pay for your lifestyle, maintain you. Suck my.
Man, I take this even as far as the student loan debt forgiveness. Look, y'all, my wife and I bust our tails to pay off our student loan debt. And the fact that this is a topic of conversation in Congress boils my skin, because I'm looking like, yo, you knew what the hell you signed on for when you put your name on that contract. Like, the hell with that whole, we're going to forgive 50,000, 10,000. I don't give a fuck if it's $1,000. It's just like, nah, man. It's just like, where's the level of accountability? Especially if I find out that your degree was some bullshit degree.
Oh. Don't get me started on that one.
It's just like, why should I be paying? And like, nobody seems to acknowledge this shit. Not the Elizabeth Warren, not the AOCs. It's just like, yo, I get, if you have a degree, in my opinion, that is beneficial to society, I could get some forgiveness. But like, if your degree doesn't benefit society as a whole, I don't understand this even being a topic of conversation, which the majority of people have useless degrees.
All right. Well, my little pushback there, right, is, as he said in The Psychology of Money, it was about the time you was born, brother.
Yeah.
True story.
Yeah.
Like he said it in The Psychology of Money. You was born at the wrong fucking time. You can't hate on that shit.
No, you're right, because the messaging of going into college, I think about it all the time, man. And a part of me wish I grew up earlier in the early 90s where trade was a thing in school versus to like when, the late 90s, early 2000s where, I'm in high school and college.
It's not too late for you to go to trade school, right?
I know it's not too late, but like,
you done brought this up a lot.
No, but what I'm saying, that's because the problem is I'm making good money in corporate America. It's just like my greed is trumping my.
That's what I'm just like. Yeah, I'm just like, man, you got
my greed, because the thing is going back to school and going to trade school, it would temporarily financially set me back. Whereas like I'm making good money now. That's all I'm saying. All I'm saying is,
here's the thing. But you might be happier doing a trade, because
I understand that. But
I had an electrician that came to my house to do put in a new box and everything, and we were talking and everything. And my man went to school. He had a degree in economics or something like that, and he was just not happy with it. And then he left it alone. And now he's an electrician, and he's freaking, happy-go-lucky. He doesn't make the same type of money, but he's happy.
Hey, Cash, I'm enjoying this book, right? So, again, to go back to The Psychology of Money, and what Black Zeus just said, that's what he said in The Psychology of Money. You know what I mean? You're going to free yourself up with the time because you got your own shit going on with this trade. You understand? So that time is invaluable. You know what I mean?
That's true.
So
that's true.
You're saying you're making X amount of money, but you'll be making X amount of money and have time. So how much money are you really, you know what I mean?
Yeah, how much money are you really saving? You're right. Yeah. Nah, you're right. That's
in
the
Psychology of Money that we reading, this is y'all got me reading.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wasn't on it like that a week ago. Yeah. But it makes sense. Shit.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
Because not for nothing, it's like, I get a lot of people say, damn, I see you doing these mud races. I see you you doing all stuff, philanthropy and masonry and this, that, and the other. And you got this book club and you running the business and how do you do that? My business allows me to do that.
Your business allows you the time to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I have the time to do that versus if I was working, a typical American standard job of 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, 60 hours.
And if you were the standard American,
shit else.
Unlike Cash, you might.
It's that minority mindset right there.
Yeah, you get off your job, Black Zeus. Unlike Cash, you probably would go hit the bar up. You know what I mean? And then you're going home, and that's it. That's your life. You know what I mean? So you don't have time to do the X, Y, and Z because you're not making time. Because you feel like when I get off this job that I don't really like, but it's making me good money, I feel like I should go out and drink. And I go out and drink, and I get home, and I, pass out or whatever the fuck, and then I just do it again the next day. But I make good money.
Yeah.
But I lose a lot of time, and I'm not happy.
Like, I don't dislike, and you're right. Like, I don't dislike my job, but I just know that. But, I was just touching on a point that Smith brought up that was in the book because, in regards to, like, the investors, like, they made mention of Warren Buffett, and I forgot the other prominent investor. It's just like Warren Buffett had the ability of time based on the era he was in versus to, like, the other investor
when he was 10.
Yeah, exactly. So
he got like he's got 7 decades, like 3/4. He said 3/4 of a century in.
Exactly. Yeah. And my story was just more so in regards to, like, the time, like, the reason why we have such a shortage of specialized labor is because, like, look at the time that we're in. Like, a lot of times where I'm hiring somebody to come out, they're usually like 50 plus in age. And you got to think about, like, making that connection, like, what happened there? You take out the trade in high schools, like, a lot of these young men, they don't know what to do, and when you try to route them to go to college, and a lot of them are not equipped, like, this is why we have this sort of shortage in the labor market right about now.
And the plus minus to that is, it's not that motherfuckers don't know what to do. Motherfuckers ain't trying to do that, bro.
That's true too.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, when everyone's telling you,
play the lottery. If it's easier for me to play the lottery and think I can make money like that, or gamble, I do on DraftKings or go to fucking the bookie, and I can gamble with my little money and try to make a lot. Or I could sit on here in the corner and just wait for somebody to come up and ask me for these drugs that I happen to have in my pocket and make money that way.
Well, I ain't trying to do that. Have to be that way.
You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, I don't got the wherewithal to take this money that I have made and reinvest it into something to make money, so I'm done with this situation. So there's a lot of layers to that shit, man.
No,
it still come back down to motherfuckers picking up a book like The Psychology of Money and reading that motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's not just that. It's also the fact of when majority of society, when you're in school and all they're talking about what college you're going to,
exactly.
You don't think that there's any other option. Like, if you think, like, if you don't go to college, that there's something wrong with you, and then you take into account, like, let's look at the Kevin Samuels, when he speaks about how these women, aren't attracted to dudes that are working blue collar jobs like plumber, electrician, a carpenter, even though those guys make good money.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing is that doesn't sound as sexy as saying, account manager or executive,
And why did it become sexy? Mike Rowe. I don't know if you guys know who Mike Rowe is. Mike Rowe, he's the host of the show called Dirty Job. Exactly.
I know who Mike Rowe is.
And he's done some.
I met Mike Rowe.
You met Mike Rowe?
Yes, I physically met Mike Rowe. Yeah.
That's dope, man. That's dope. But if you listen to his lectures online, I'm talking about when he talks about how trade became this sort of dirty, no pun intended, this sort of dirty taboo. And he said that his epiphany came when he was talking to his guidance counselor. And one of the things when he was in school, one of the things that, like, there was a poster behind the guidance counselor where on one side of the poster, you had this mechanic, dirty, oil all over himself, holding a socket wrench or a monkey wrench, something on his hand. And on the other side of the poster, you had this collegiate graduate. And there was something in the caption that alludes to the fact that you want to be this college graduate. Yeah. And the reason why that's important, and I get, yes, the information is still out there. You don't necessarily have to fall into the trap. But like to Schubert's saying, I think the time matters, because like how that messaging is wrapped up and packaged and delivered is important. And I'm not, like you said, it's not too late for me to pick up the trade, but I am a byproduct of not only were you saying that college is the route, but you also demonize the trade at the same time.
And the funny thing is, if you actually look at it on paper, if you look at it on paper, you go to a trade school, you'll learn a trade within a year to 2 years max, versus being in college for 4. All right, bare minimum 4. All right. Now, on top of that, the fact of you're paying 1/3 of the cost. So while your class, somebody you might have graduated high school with, right, is in college on their 3rd year, you're already out of trade school and starting to make money. You've already, by the time they've gone to their 2nd year, you're now part of a union. By the time they started their 1st year in the industry that they're looking to be in, you might have started a business, paid off the loans that so you're already ahead of the game if you know how to move right with it.
Exactly. But you know what's so sad though, Shu? And granted, it's no excuse, because at the end of the day, like Smith is saying, like I could still have learned that, but no one breaks that down. You know what was the messaging that always sticks out, that resonate? And this is my greed factor. They always message it like, well, the college graduate makes $1 million more. Yeah, they makes $1 million more. So I'm like, yo, all right, well, this is easy.
Over the lifespan.
Over the lifespan. Exactly.
But that $1 million, when you break that shit down,
I'm gonna actually make more money because I started working earlier.
Okay, so
you earlier, so I'm making more.
Exactly, Smith.
When you graduate,
but they
flourishing. So,
but they never tell that story though.
Yeah.
I fell a victim to it. The way they sold that shit was, over the lifespan, you'll make $1 million more. But they never tell you that alternative of like, well, you could like broke down in regards of being done in a year, being able to pay that off, being able to
make $1 million before,
having a side hustle and making $1 million before, and even investing some of that money in the stock market. Like that's some of the trickery in regards of American culture that I don't like. And like I said, when I was playing devil's advocate, it's not to say that to remove all accountability, but like, yo, there's some fucking evil genius marketing that goes on in American psyche that fucks with us when it comes to the psychology of money.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, because the funny thing is I was just having this discussion with somebody the other day about, like, if you really think about it, someone else who, and mind you, I get it, I went to college too, but the whole thing is I was, part of the military, GI Bill and all that stuff. But my whole thing is, my very first certification in personal training cost me $200. $200, and I could automatically start working at a job making $75 an hour, versus the job that I was working at making $12.15 for a $200 investment, versus someone else who now has to make a $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 investment to work a job making $20 an hour, 25 if you're looking at $40,000 a year, something like that. Yeah, roughly about $20, $25 an hour to make $40,000 a year. I can make that same salary with a certification that took me 1 weekend. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the beauty of America, is the fact that we keep overselling college as if it's the end all be all. And I'm not saying that it doesn't help people learn and progress and be better to stand together. But I know people that have a college education that are waiters and waitresses. I know people that are college educated, and are working as, what do you call that? Working in a hotel as a not a custodian, concierge, like, and these are jobs they could have got without that degree. They could have got that same job. I got a ex-girlfriend of mine who has a master's in criminal justice. She's a real estate agent. She did not need that shit. She's making more money as a real estate agent than she's done, with that master's degree in criminal justice.
And she probably have to pay a shitload in student loan too, because everybody I know who got a criminal justice degree got like $30,000, $40,000 in the hole easily.
Yep. So it's just like, we make it seem like college is the only way, and it's wrong. I mean, we need to start teaching our kids, like, listen, you have other options. You can be a real estate agent, you can be a car salesman, you could be a carpenter, this, that, and the other. It's just a matter of how you manage your money once you do get into that career.
Yeah.
You know what also fucked up, I think, people's ability with finances? I think eliminating pipelines, meaning back in the day, there was this sort of pipeline where corporations will partner up with a school or certain high schools. And it's like, look, you go through, and the schools will have curriculum set up for you to work at said company or said corporations, and that started to evaporate in the 70s and 80s, especially when companies was like, yo, we're going to outsource our jobs overseas and shit like that. So I think a lot of that too. And granted, it might not help with the psychology, how you deal with your money, but in regards of when it comes to like careers endeavors and shit like that, that also played a huge role where people no longer, you were left to your own device, your own vices in regards of how you was gonna go about living your life. But I don't know, man. But next question. Let's jump into my shit. How do you differentiate quality of life from reckless spending? And the reason why this was inspired by the Save Your Money chapter, right? And it almost ties into your next question, Shu. We're in, inflation is kicking our butts now. Everyone who's gone shopping, they're seeing prices of meat go up. They've seen everything go up. But let's say you're somebody who want to have a decent life. And you want to live in a decent community and have, decent things, but you realize that it costs money. I think the days of doing what I was doing for some folks, of living in Ivy Hill and enduring the shit that transpired in Ivy Hill for a decade. Some people are not willing to do that. There's some people yo, I'd rather live in a decent area and have decent amenities. How do you define that? How do you define reckless spending versus to someone seeking a quality of life?
So let me say this, right? I don't know if you ever heard the saying, it's better to be the shit amongst kings versus be the king amongst shits. Mm-hmm. By that means the fact of, I would rather be the poor guy in a nice neighborhood than be the rich guy in a shitty neighborhood. Because at the end of the day, if you're the rich guy in a shitty neighborhood, your quality of life sucks. You may have, a little bit more money in the bank. You might have a nicer car. You might have but the whole thing is your quality of life that good if you got to constantly look over your shoulder to see if anybody's going to try to rob you for that nicer car? Is your quality of life any better? It's like if you got to constantly, stick your jewelry back in your shirt so that when you're coming in and out of the house and so forth and so on. Versus if you're the shit amongst kings and you live in a nicer neighborhood, and you might be the poor guy in the neighborhood, you might not have the nicest car, you might not have the fancy jewelry or this, that, and the other, but at the end of the day, you know that you're safe. You know that your kids can go to a good school. The fact of the community is cleaner and this, that, and the other. So it's really a matter of what your trade-off is, and what it costs you, to determine whether or not you are having a better quality of life versus just, reckless spending. Because reckless spending to me is just like I said before, if you're trying to get a 12-bedroom house when you can only sleep in one bedroom at a time, or you're trying to buy 6 cars. And I know people who have multiple cars, and it's just like, dude, you can't drive all these cars. What's the purpose? What's the point? Oh, well, this is for the weekend, or this one's because this is my sports car. This is my everyday car. Come on, man, these ain't shoes. You being a little, that is reckless spending. That would be reckless spending. And that's what you see in the hood is that, I want to be the king amongst shits.
Yeah, I think, hey, peace. My boy finally got on. Hey, y'all, before I answer this question, that's my man, Pep. Peace, King. That's my man Pep right there. Pep,
what's going on, brother? You're on mute, bro. You gotta unmute yourself.
That's Black Zeus. Yeah, that nigga don't know much, but he
disrespectful.
Oh shit!
That's my man Pep. shit. That's all
Hey,
right.
no brother, man. Just out here working out, man. But glad to join the club.
Are you working out already? Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, let me answer this. So right, I think like the quality of life might depend on an individual and what you want to be a quality of life, but the reckless spending is definitely what Black Zeus just said. If you got the 12 bedrooms, you only can sleep in one. No, the reckless spending is this. The reckless spending is the beginning of the book, chapter 1. I forget about the Asian guy. They went outside and they started throwing gold coins, skipping them shits across the water. Because we're gonna keep it to the psychology of money. You remember?
Okay, that's extreme. That's really extreme.
No,
that's
that was
blatantly.
Look, reckless spending was the bill came up. He destroyed some shit in the bar. It was $500. He said, "What? Don't insult me. I'll give you $5,000. Fuck you talking about? That's reckless spending."
But like
look, it's extreme too. Yeah, it's extreme in your capacity. You understand? In the billionaire capacity, is it extreme? Or could me and you go out and throw dimes across the water? Is that extreme for us? You understand? To somebody else. So it's all relative. It depends on your capacity for that income and what you got coming in. That's why I said the quality of life, it depends, because it's not just so living in a neighborhood and having the fancy stuff and living in an impoverished neighborhood. It's about what is your quality of life. If you're fine with living in a 1-bedroom house and you have one car and a 1-car garage and you live in a decent neighborhood, is that fine for you? Or do you need that 2-bedroom? Are you that person that because you need a little more space? Are you the woodsy person? What is the quality of life for you? You know what I mean? But the reckless spending is shit, skipping money. Any kind of money that we throw away could be reckless spending. You know, when you gamble it, is that considered reckless spending?
But the whole thing is,
let me throw a wrench into this, though.
But the whole thing is, when you talk about that is reckless spending, but that does not add or take away from your quality of life in any way. That's why I used the reference
take
about
away
the house.
Because of the reckless spending, I can't get the quality of life that I want.
Yeah,
it all circles back.
But what if the quality? What if you're
spending this money? I can't get the quality of life I want.
Yeah.
Look, remember, in the psychology of money, he talked about $416 a month for the lottery. If I'm investing that, come on now, within a year, that's a good investment, and that could make me more money, and it could change my quality of life. No,
I definitely get that. Like, I think the one thing that I probably should have added on to that question is, what if your quality of life impacts your inability to save?
That's my sister-in-law.
Like, how do you juggle that? Like, yo, you're not going excessive with anything, but you want this quality of life, but it's impacting your ability to save.
I'm the wrong one to ask that question because I'm stacking.
I got a sister.
Because if you ever listen to Dave Ramsey, right, he gives advice like, yo, downsize, downside, downside. And I'm like, I get that. I'm one to be like, I just told the story of living in Ivy Hill, but not a lot of people are comfortable with that sort of living dynamic. So
see,
what do you say to that individual?
Does a teacher got like any way of form of fashion, like input it in this? Because you already know you got to be learned and taught these things anyway. So if a person ain't being taught, but then they come across like a abundance of money, then they could be reckless or live how they want to live and don't, got to appreciate anything. Twitch though, now if a person earned it, that might be a different, a different insight on how a person appreciating the value of money, or whoever, even if they teaching they offsprings, kids, and siblings, like, okay, this is how we do it. But like if a person like born in it and ain't got to get taught nothing and is just reckless, that could be also like, it's all types of influences. And that's what it is. It's the influence of the way. So if you ain't got the influence or, the learning, like you said, if a person throwing gold coins, and can be reckless for another person outside looking, because it's like, well, man, why are you doing that? That person don't know that person. That person coins like, I could make this. Like the money, the value, like, because he make it is nothing, because he know he going to make it again. You know what I mean? To a person who ain't got the ambition and be like, oh, well, he throwing away. Let me just get them coins. I could collect them, come over here and just still live a lavish life and still, appreciate the value. This is the same as the person spending it and being reckless with it because he taught it that way.
Well, yeah, if I'm born into money, it's going to be different because I could be reckless spending all my life because I'm born with money.
Can be, yes.
But my quality of life can still be, I can still want the quality of life and be reckless spending at the same time. So it is all relative. It just depends on a situation. But I still stand fast on, if you want a certain quality of life, you shouldn't be recklessly spending. But my sister, she does that a lot. She spends outside of her means. Well, I won't say it's outside of her means because she ain't, she can spend it like that. But she always feels like she is stretched to the limit with her money because she's still spending more than what she needs to spend. You know what I mean? She's not investing equally. She's spending more than what she needs to spend.
Go ahead, Black Zeus.
So staying on the issue of quality of life. Mm-hmm. If you just stick on that subject, right? The subject is quality of life. So everyone has the same basic need: food, clothing, shelter, right? Mm-hmm. So the whole thing is, if let's say everybody gets $100,000 a year, everybody gets $100,000 a year, mm-hmm. right? Whole thing is like if you all have $100,000 a year, the dude who bought a Maserati versus the dude who bought a Honda, is the dude's Maserati bringing any quality into his life that the Honda's not bringing? Doesn't he still have to drive the same speed limit? Doesn't he still have to stop at the same red lights? Don't the air conditioning still work the same way? Doesn't the radio still work the same way? So has he really improved his quality of life by spending more money? That's what it really. That's what it. That's the difference.
In his mind, it's the joy, and that joy improved his quality.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. In that person's mind, I think it's his joy, and that improved his quality for him.
But what joy is he really? But here's the question.
No, that's for him. That's for him. I don't know.
But that is. But
like the difference in the need for speed. Like the Honda. I'll probably go like 100, you know what I mean? Like probably just it's hypothetical. The Honda is gonna go like 60, you know what I mean? 60 from 0 to 10, you know what I mean? But the Maserati, on the other hand, Maserati is going 0 to 100 at 0.5. So the adrenaline in his, you know what I mean? His shit oh no, I like that because that's my rush. You know what I mean? It's
rush, that could be his rush. You know what I mean? And that could be part of his joy.
Yeah, but that rush doesn't work when you caught in that rush doesn't work when you're caught up in traffic headed to work.
No, I understand that, but you said that they equate to his joy.
And what I'm saying, no, you're not hearing me. Not joy, quality of life. There's a difference.
I said that.
For instance, quality of life is
my fault. Listen, I said that joy aspect. That's part of his quality, though, for him.
The whole thing is So,
that's equivalent to somebody who likes to go and spend their money at the strip club.
So,
that's a certain quality for that person.
So, for instance, the person who drinks tap water, right? And it might not be the greatest tap water because the old pipes and this, that, and the other might end up with all types of lead poisoning, this, that, and the other, whatever the case is. Versus that person who spent a couple more dollars to get their bottled water doesn't have all that poison in it. So in that sense, you can directly correlate how that can help anybody's quality of life improve because they spent that money. But the whole thing is, certain things in our society is predicated basically off of consumerism, and we're sold on the idea that our life is getting better because we have these things. If I buy a Breitling watch versus buy a Seiko watch, it doesn't tell me time any better than the other.
No, that's the difference. That's the difference with you saying your wants and your needs. Like the difference in your wants and your needs is understanding the quality of life. So your wants should never supersede your needs. You know what I mean? But like you said, it depends on the individual. Like if a person, like you said with water, everybody needs water. Okay, but everybody still can't, how they got it, the system can't afford the Fiji. You know what I mean? But we still drinking tap water. You know what I mean? But still, the people who drinking tap water is living better than the people that's drinking Fiji. You know what I mean? So when you state like the quality of life I still think on the individual, and it's still, if it don't affect and you're not opposing to it though, like when you achieve something and you know what I mean, you can't afford to get the Maserati, and then it's like you try to like put it in people's faces, or you know what I mean, things of that nature, not just enjoy your accomplishments and enjoy like the well-being of like you could afford this. Because I think like all of it, like you said, dealing with consuming, everything should be affordable, basically. Like you said, the Maserati should just be the same amount as the Honda Accord. You know what I mean? But the system is not allowing it. I don't think it's the people, you know what I mean? It's the system. But as far as like, I think that's the messed up part about it. Because like I said, all the cars, everybody should be able to afford all these cars. You know what I mean? So that would be the separation.
Right. I think
that's a different discussion.
You hit it when you first said it versus the wants and the needs. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I could do it with a Seiko watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I could do it with a Casio watch because that still tells time regardless. You know what I mean?
That's why I'm saying.
I can do it with no watch at all if I got a phone, and I can do it with that. You know what I mean? It still becomes with, you know, your quality just depends on what you want as an individual. Anything outside of the basic, like you said, what you say, Black Zeus, food,
basic necessities like food, shelter.
Basic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
the whole thing is.
But here's let me throw a scenario though. All right, so now we're because I'm thinking of a scenario like this, where your quality life impacts your ability to save. Like, so now let's say you got a single mother or just a single parent, right? They have children. Where they currently reside, they don't have the best school district. You know, they're just in a shitty school district. They're like, you know what? I'm going to go into a neighborhood where, I might have to spend $300-400 extra dollars, and it might not necessarily, I might not be able to save, but I am able to get this quality life not only for myself but my kids. What do you say to that?
I say you go ahead and do that. That's a sacrifice. And again, it depends on what you want your quality of life to be. If you want a better school district for your children, then you might make that sacrifice because you want that quality of life for you and your children. If you, again, want your quality of life is in fashion and you decide to stay in this shitty ass school district because you want to keep up with the Joneses, you want to look a certain way, then by all means, you're going to do that.
Now, one question for y'all. Is it the quality of life, like, you know, I'm just joining in. Is y'all basing it like on like the outside influence, the inside influence, or just like the individual? Because like like the system could mess us up on dealing with like the quality of life, and like you even said with the school system.
The quality of life is still on the individual, man. We can't put it on the system. Again, I could be impoverished. I could be on welfare. I could have a family first card. It doesn't matter. There are situations where I can get fresh produce if that's my choice. You know what I mean? If my choice is to feed my family healthy things, I can still find those and get those. Being impoverished, that's one part of the quality of life right there. Eating healthy. You know what I mean? If I'm still living in a what was it, Cash? I'm living in Ivy Hill Towers, and I'm having rodent and roaches problem. I'm having an infestation. I could try to change that situation. That might not be able within my power to change it fully, but I could try to make sure that within my household that we're very clean, that we bleach down, that we do everything that we need to do to try to eliminate that or stave it off as best as possible to change that quality of life until we can change our situation, our current living situation. There are certain things within the power of because I've been on the other side of being impoverished. So and I know with the quality of life still part. So I don't have to do the cup of noodle, the top ramen, and keep the sodium. There's things that you can still do to affect the quality of your life directly. That's all I think.
Black Zeus, what you got on that scenario I pointed out in regards of having to make certain sacrifices to your saving potential for a quality of life?
So the whole thing is, you know, the way I look at money, everything's about ROI. So let's say I decide to move into a better neighborhood to give my kid a better school. so I'm not saving cash up front, but the whole thing is I'm investing in my kid and giving my kid a better future and giving my kid, a better shot. So at the end of the day, it's still an investment. So it's not really such a bad thing. It would be different if I said, I'm going to try to keep up with the Joneses so we look like we doing well, like buy a fancier car, get, fancier clothes, this, that, and the other. Then it's just like, it's stupid. It's a false reality to say, well, this makes my life better because I'm spending this money, but then you struggling to get by to keep up that lifestyle versus like if you're struggling to get by on a lifestyle, to stay in a neighborhood that, like the rent's a little higher or whatever the case is, so that your kid can have a better shot or go to a better school or whatever the case is, then that to me is an investment. And the long-term ROI on that is going to be 10 times better.
Yeah.
See, thank you. Yeah. Okay. You look at the ROI on that. Okay.
Yeah. And that's what it is. It's, you going to live flashy with this, or you going to, make that sacrifice for that investment. You know what I mean? Because remember, it's risk versus luck versus risk. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, I like that chapter too, luck versus risk.
Yeah, chapter